It was the silence that killed me first. Not the absence of sound, but the absence of us. The long, cold dinners where knives scraped porcelain and the clock on the wall ticked louder than our voices. Emily sat across from me, like a stranger in our own home, chewing methodically, her eyes locked somewhere far beyond the kitchen walls. I tried asking about her day, about her classes, her mother, anything, but all I ever got back were one-word answers and 4 smiles. We've been married 7 years. 7 years of shared bed sheets, road trips, burnt dinners, and nights curled up on the couch watching shitty reality shows we both pretended to hate. I still remembered the way her skin smelled of vanilla when she crawled into bed, how she used to trace lazy circles on my chest when she couldn't sleep. But that had stopped. Everything had stopped. Sex became an afterthought. If we touched at all, it was like strangers trying to fake chemistry. She no longer reached for me under the covers. She no longer reached for me at all. I could have told myself it was just a phase, that maybe we were both tired or stressed or whatever excuse people use when they don't want to face the truth. But then came the roses. It was a Wednesday. I come home from work early, hoping maybe we could go out, reconnect, even if it meant pretending. But when I walked into the living room, there they were, 12 long-stemmed red roses, too elegant to be from any friend, too romantic to be from her mom, and definitely too expensive to be something she'd buy for herself. There was a note. Can't stop thinking about last night. You were incredible. Hey, at first I couldn't move. I just stood there, the card dangling between my fingers, my other hand gripping the countertop like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Hey, Alex. I didn't know many men named Alex. But one stood out. Her new co-worker, the one she said was funny in a harmless way. I replayed every moment she'd mentioned him. The way she smiled, just a little too long. The way she brushed off my questions with that familiar flick of her wrist. I'd been blind. No, worse. I'd been willfully ignorant. I didn't want to believe she was cheating. But the truth had been there the whole time, wrapped in rose petals and sex-stained memories she never bothered to hide. I heard her car in the driveway. I didn't even have time to move the flowers before the door opened. She stepped inside, humming something soft under her breath, dressed in that wine-colored blouse she only wore when she wanted to feel sexy. Her eyes landed on the roses instantly and froze. Oh, she said, a breath caught halfway in her throat. You're home early. I didn't blink, didn't flinch, just looked at her and let the silence do the talking. I wanted her to squirm, and she did. God, she did. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, explain, deny. But then she closed them again, swallowed, and forced a shaky smile. They're from a student, she lied. Graduation gift. I raised an eyebrow. Must be a hell of a student. She laughed, too quickly, too high-pitched, and walked past me into the kitchen. I let her go. I didn't call her out. I didn't rage or scream. I didn't throw the vase at the wall or demand the truth. I just nodded slowly and said, dinner's in the fridge. That night, we sat at the table in silence. She barely touched her food. I pretended not to notice. My mind wasn't on revenge yet. Not fully. It was still absorbing the new reality. But beneath the calm surface, something darker began to boil. Something bitter. Something patient. She thought she'd gotten away with it. That I was too spineless, too hurt, too soft to retaliate. But what Emily didn't understand, what she'd never understood, was that love and rage come from the same place. And I'd loved her deeply, madly, which meant I was about to make her hurt in ways Alex never could. I didn't want her dead. I didn't want to scream. I didn't even want her to confess. That would be too easy. No, I wanted her to break. The way I had. Slowly, quietly, with the same kind of hollow grief that creeps into your bones and whispers, you were never enough. So I play my part. I kissed her goodnight. I held her when she let me. I smiled when she said, I love you, though I knew she didn't mean it anymore. I let her believe she'd fooled me. And with every lie she told, I stacked another brick in the wall I would eventually drop on top of her world. Revenge wasn't just a plan. It was my new religion. And Emily, poor, cheating Emily, she had no idea what kind of hell was coming. The hardest part was pretending I didn't know. I'd wake up beside her and feel the heat of her skin just inches away, smell her shampoo clinging to the pillow, and wonder if Alex had kissed that same spot days before, if he had tasted the same mouth that whispered half-hearted, "I love yous" into my ear at night. And still I smiled. Still I played the part. But behind the smile, something changed in me. I no longer saw her as my wife. I saw her as a mark, a project, a puzzle to deconstruct piece by piece. That's when I started watching her. It began small. I memorized her phone passcode, noting how her fingers danced across the screen whenever she thought I wasn't looking. She used the same 6-digit pattern she'd had for years. Our old anniversary date, ironic in a way that almost made me laugh. Once I had access, everything unfolded. The first time I opened her phone while she was in the shower, my hands trembled. I told myself I was looking for confirmation, for closure, but in truth, I already knew. I just needed to see how far the rot had spread. Her messages were a minefield of half-erased texts, suggestive emojis, and phrases like, "Wish I could sneak away again," and "You make me feel alive." That one hit me hardest. Alive. As if our life together had been some kind of spiritual death sentence. As if my love had buried her instead of holding her up. Most of their conversations were on a private messaging app. Encrypted, of course. But Emily wasn't as careful as she thought. She deleted the app icon from her home screen, but it was still listed under installed apps. I opened it. No password required. She hadn't even thought to hide it better. She was getting sloppy. Every night, I watched the messages pile up. Next time I want to leave scratches. With that thing I like. Still thinking about you inside me. They weren't shy, and neither was she. I began logging everything. Photos, screenshots, names, places. I built a folder on a secure drive, labeled Utilities. Inside it, I organized subfolders by date. Time-stamped evidence, meticulous and cold. There was something strangely therapeutic about it. Like I was building a case. Like I was the detective, and she was the crime scene. But spying wasn't enough. I wanted to see it. So I followed her. The first time was a Thursday. She told me she had a faculty meeting at 6 p.m. Her eyes didn't flinch, her voice steady. She was getting better at lying. I waited 5 minutes after she left, then grabbed my keys and followed her a borrowed car I picked up from a buddy who owed me a favor. I kept my distance. She drove downtown, weaving through traffic with a kind of urgency that betrayed her calm facade. She wasn't heading to the school. I watched as she pulled into the underground garage of the Marlowe Hotel. I parked across the street. 10 minutes later, Alex arrived. I recognized him from the one office party I'd attended, where he'd shaken my hand and complimented Emily's brilliant insight. I remembered thinking he seemed too polished, too perfect. I should have seen it then. He walked in with a smirk on his face, one hand adjusting his cufflink like he was about to make a goddamn performance out of the night. They stayed for 2 hours. When she came home later that night, smelling faintly of hotel soap and wearing different earrings than when she'd left, she kissed me with a warmth that made me want to vomit. I smiled, poured her wine, and asked her about the meeting. She lied to my face with the grace of a seasoned actress. Boring. Mostly budget talk. Nothing you'd want to hear about. I watched her sip the wine I poured, imagining what Alex had tasted on her lips just hours before. I nodded. Glad you're home. Over the next 2 weeks, I followed her 3 more times. Each time, it was a different excuse: dinner with colleagues, running errands, seeing a friend. Each time, she went to him. Each time, they spent hours behind closed hotel doors. I never confronted her. I never let my voice rise. Instead, I planned. I started learning more about Alex. His job, his habits, where he lived. I found his social media accounts, scrubbed through his tagged photos, learned about his hobbies, his favorite bars, even the gym he went to. I wasn't stalking. I was preparing. A man like Alex had a curated image. I would ruin it. But that wasn't for now. That was for later. For now, I would keep watching, keep collecting. One night, I sat alone in my office, staring at a screenshot of Emily telling Alex she couldn't stop thinking about the way you took control. My thumb hovered over the delete button. I didn't press it. Instead, I saved it under a new label: manipulation material. This wasn't about jealousy anymore. It wasn't even about the sex, though the thought of him inside her, hearing her moan for him the way she used to for me, twisted my stomach into knots. No, this had become about something far greater. Power. She had taken something from me, my dignity, my trust, my sense of self. Now, I was going to take everything from her, piece by piece. I knew the exact moment to strike. She came home late that Friday, her hair tousled like it had been touched too many times, her blouse unbuttoned just low enough to expose the faint outline of a red mark trailing down the side of her neck. She'd rushed in breathless, full of apologies, said something about a dinner running long, a last-minute drinks thing with the department head. I stood there in the kitchen, towel in hand, pretending to dry dishes as if I didn't already know she'd been bent over a hotel mattress just an hour earlier. She avoided my eyes like a child caught lying. I didn't think you'd still be up. I couldn't sleep, I said, voice low, casual. Something's been bothering me. She froze, halfway between setting down her purse and reaching for the fridge. Her shoulders locked in place. And for a moment, I could see the panic behind her eyes. I let the silence stretch. Let her imagination do the work. Then I said softly, I feel like we've lost each other. Her shoulders sank in relief. Not because it wasn't true, but because she thought I didn't know. She stepped closer, tentative, like a deer approaching a still hunter. Yeah, I felt that too, she said, voice quivering, as if she were grateful to finally speak a truth that wasn't the real truth. I've just been overwhelmed. Life, work, us. I didn't know how to fix it. I reached out and took her hand. And just like that, I watched her lower her guard completely. No suspicion, no fear. Only a woman who thought she'd been given a second chance to rewrite the ending she was steering us toward. She looked down at our joined hands like they were some sacred relic, proof that the damage could still be undone. Let's fix it, I said. Let's try again. She burst into tears, and I held her like I used to. Let her sob into my chest while her guilt frothed beneath the surface, a hidden undercurrent I could taste in her breath. She thought she was off the hook. She thought forgiveness was real. In the days that followed, I leaned hard into the role. I became attentive, considerate. I started leaving her little notes again, just like she used to for me before the rot set in. I brought home flowers, ran a bath for her one night, complete with candles and her favorite wine. She practically melted under the effort. She clung to me like a lifeline. And every time I kissed her, touched her, whispered sweet nothings against her neck, I thought about Alex. About his hands on her, his mouth, the way she probably arched her back for him, the sound she made that she used to reserve for me. I imagined it all in painful, brutal detail, but I never let any of it show. I smiled. I kissed her harder, because this wasn't reconciliation. It was bait. Every day, she seemed more convinced we were healing. She even brought up going on a vacation together, some resort in Cabo she found online. Her voice lit up when she talked about it, like she was 14 again and planning a dream wedding. I smiled through every conversation and told her we'd look at dates. Meanwhile, I was planting seeds. I started bringing up how forgetful she'd been lately. Small things at first. Didn't you say your class was canceled today? Or I thought you said your mom was out of town, didn't you? Each time, her brow would furrow, lips part slightly, and she'd stammer some unsure response. She didn't remember lying, not specifically. That was the point. I began changing little things, turning down the heat and saying she must have done it, moving her keys, deleting texts before she noticed, even altering a few email filters to reroute specific conversations away from her inbox. She thought her devices were glitching. I told her maybe it was stress. Her breathing would quicken, and I'd rub her back, tell her it was okay. You're just overwhelmed, I'd whisper. She'd nod slowly. Yeah, maybe I am. She needed me again. That was the best part. She leaned into me for comfort, confided in me when she couldn't explain why her calendar reminders were off or why her sister hadn't responded to a message that was never sent. She'd wake up at night in a cold sweat, mumbling that she felt like she was losing her mind. And I'd hold her tighter, brush her hair from her damp forehead, and tell her, I've got you. I'm here. I'll always be here. I watched as she spiraled while believing she was finally getting me back. One night we made love. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't wild or desperate like it had been in the early days. It was tender, slow, deliberate. She kissed me like a woman rediscovering safety. I kissed her back like a man preparing the stage for an execution. When she collapsed against my chest, heart pounding, she whispered, "I'm so glad we're okay again." I smiled into the darkness. Me too, but I wasn't okay. Not even close. Because I'd seen the truth in her eyes. Even now, wrapped around me, she still hadn't ended it with Alex. Her messages were more careful, her lies more subtle, but they were still there. She was just trying to have both lives now. She thought I'd forgiven her, that she could feed him her body and feed me her soul. But I wasn't interested in her soul anymore. I was interested in ruining her. And step one had just been completed. She trusted me again, which meant she'd never see what was coming. Emily started forgetting things. It began subtly. A name misremembered, a missed dentist appointment, her car keys left in the freezer. I always noticed, always helped her find them. I'd tilt my head, smile gently, and say things like, "You've been all over the place lately, Em. Everything okay?" She'd laugh it off at first, brushing her hair behind her ear the way she did when she was nervous. "Just tired," she'd say. "Probably too much on my mind." And I'd nod, warm, reassuring. Of course, stress does weird things to us. But it wasn't stress. Not really. It was me. I changed the time on her phone by an hour before she left for work. She was late to class and came home near tears. I found the scarf she said she wore to brunch last week hanging in the back of the hall closet. She swore she'd left it at the restaurant. I started logging into her email when she was asleep and marking unread messages as read, then subtly referencing them later. "Did you see your sister's email about the birthday trip?" I'd ask over breakfast. "What email?" she'd say, frowning. And I'd widen my eyes like I was surprised. "It was from last night, Em. You replied to it." She'd pull out her phone, hands trembling slightly, and scroll through her inbox. It would be there, read, responded to. She'd stare at it, blinking in confusion. I don't remember doing this. I reached across the table and placed my hand over hers, voice soft like velvet. "It's okay, baby. You've been under a lot of pressure. Your mind's probably just a little scrambled." I watched her shatter piece by piece, each crack in her confidence spidering into the next. She started second-guessing everything. Her words, her calendar, her sanity. Sometimes, I'd change small details about our conversations, just enough to twist the memory. I'd say, "You told me you were going to yoga last night," even when I knew she said she was grading papers. When she pushed back, I'd smile gently. "Are you sure? You've been so forgetful lately, Em." "I'm just trying to help." That word, forgetful, started to haunt her. She stopped using her usual perfume and couldn't remember why. She found a bra in her drawer that she swore she hadn't worn in years. "I placed it there the night before. Maybe you pulled it out by accident," I offered. She nodded slowly, but I saw the fear in her eyes. The foundation beneath her, once strong and familiar, was shifting, and I made sure it never stopped moving. I installed a second calendar app on her phone and synced it to a dummy account I controlled. Twice a week, I'd add and delete random reminders, called Dr. Sharma, pick up cake for mom, things she'd never planned. And when she'd forget to follow through, she'd spiral. "I swear I didn't put that in," she muttered one night, scrolling through the phantom events, her thumb trembling. I leaned against the doorframe, watching her from across the room. "Do you think you're getting sick?" I asked gently, like memory loss or something. She didn't answer. That was the night she sat on the edge of the bathtub for nearly 20 minutes, staring into her reflection like it was foreign. I watched from the hallway. I didn't go in, didn't comfort her. I needed her to sink lower. I became her safe place, her only place of certainty. Whenever she broke down, I was there, holding her, kissing her forehead, promising her that we'd get through this together. I was the gravity that kept her from floating off into madness. She started depending on me in a way she hadn't in years. Every decision, every plan, she double-checked with me. Her confidence was unraveling, one thread at a time. And still, she was seeing him. The messages had shifted. Less playful now. More frantic. "I don't know what's happening," she texted him one night. "I feel like I'm losing my mind." And then, heartbreakingly, "I think I'm ruining everything." I read it over her shoulder while she slept, her body curled beside mine like some fragile thing in need of shelter. I didn't feel sympathy. I felt satisfaction, because the guilt wasn't enough. The lies weren't enough. I needed her to doubt her reality. One night, I hid her wedding ring. She wore it every day. A small, elegant band with an inscription only I knew. For every tomorrow. She never took it off, not even in the shower. When she woke up and found it missing, she panicked. Tore through the bedroom, opened every drawer, dumped her jewelry box out onto the floor. Her hands were shaking, lips pale, tears threatening. "I don't understand," she whispered. I had it yesterday. I swear I walked in slowly, rubbing my eyes like I'd just woken up. "What's wrong?" "My ring," she said, breath catching. "It's gone. I must have taken it off. I don't remember." I walked to the bathroom, opened the vanity drawer, where I'd placed it 30 minutes earlier, and pulled it out. "It was right here," I said calmly. She stared at it like it was cursed. Her voice cracked. "I never take it off. Maybe you're sleepwalking," I offered. "That happens to people under stress." She looked at me, eyes wide. "Do you think something's wrong with me?" I didn't answer. I just stepped forward and slipped the ring back onto her finger. "No, y whispered. You're perfect." She collapsed into my chest. That night, she made love to me like I was her salvation. Like I was the one anchoring her to the edge of a reality she no longer understood. And all the while, I stared at the ceiling, thinking about how easily trust becomes a weapon in the right hands. Emily didn't know it yet, but I'd already broken her. All that was left now was to show her. And soon, very soon, Alex would be the first piece to fall. Revenge, when done right, doesn't explode, it erodes. By the time the target realizes what's happening, the ground beneath them is already gone. Alex thought he'd gotten away with it. He thought he could slide into someone else's marriage, into someone else's wife, like he had a right to be there. He saw me as an obstacle, an outdated placeholder for Emily's heart. He played the charming side piece with a cocky smile and an overconfident swagger that made him easy to hate. He didn't know he was being studied, measured, marked. While Emily unraveled inside our home, I was building a dossier on the man who thought he could trespass on my life without consequences. He worked for an architecture firm downtown, one with a sparkling glass lobby and a reputation for strict client confidentiality. He wasn't some anonymous bartender or faceless fling. He had a lot to lose, and I knew just how to take it from him. It started with the emails. He used the same email for work and personal affairs. Stupid. So stupid. All I needed was one moment. One device left open while they were together. One sync to the hotel Wi-Fi. One automatic login while he was too distracted to think. I got in through a phishing link. I texted Emily from a dummy number. She clicked it. It logged her IP. That led to his. From there, it was easy. I started with his contacts, his boss, his firm's managing partner, a few high-end clients. They all received anonymous packages, email threads printed in full, photos, texts, screenshots from the app they used to schedule their trysts. And I made sure it wasn't just about the affair. I included key phrases, misusing firm resources, client meetings used as cover, ethical breach. It sounded more like corporate espionage than an office romance. A few days later, I heard through Emily, casually over dinner, as she picked at a bowl of reheated soup, that Alex had called in sick. "Flu," she muttered, scrolling through her phone. "He said he was out of it." I sipped my wine and nodded. That time of year, I guess. He missed 3 days. On the 4th, I sent the final blow, a thumb drive delivered anonymously to his firm's compliance officer. It contained a screen recording of his text exchanges with Emily, cross-referenced with his firm's shared calendar. There was undeniable overlap. Business meetings that never existed, flights charged to the company card that matched nights spent in hotel rooms with my wife. He was finished. 2 days later, his LinkedIn page was updated. Former project director at Carmichael & Rowe. Just like that. Emily didn't say much that weekend. Her phone barely lit up. I watched her as she stared at the screen longer than necessary, waiting for a message that didn't come. Her silence said more than she ever could. Her lifeline was gone. Sunday night, she broke. We were watching a movie, or I was pretending to. She sat beside me, her legs curled up, her hand motionless on the blanket between us. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Have you ever lost someone who made you feel like yourself?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached for her hand and squeezed it gently. "You haven't lost anyone," I said. "You still have me." She started crying. God, the irony nearly broke me. She wept in my chest while I held her like some devoted, patient husband. While she grieved for the man who had helped destroy us, I played savior. I rubbed her back and kissed her temple and told her she was safe. That I'd always be here. That night, she didn't sleep. I heard her get up, slip down the hallway, phone in hand. I watched her from the crack of our bedroom door as she paced the kitchen barefoot, biting her thumbnail between calls that went unanswered. She tried 4 times. Then she stopped. In the days that followed, she collapsed into herself. No muck-up, no long phone calls with her sister. She skipped her morning runs. Her outfits, once deliberate and effortlessly seductive, became baggy, mismatched afterthoughts. She started forgetting to feed the cat. She was a ghost in our house. The sex stopped, not that I cared. She didn't even try anymore. Her touches were hollow now, her kisses dry, disconnected. It was like watching a puppet lose its strings. And the best part? She had no idea I was behind any of it. One afternoon, she got a text from an unknown number. "He's not coming back." Let go. Her face turned to stone. I sent it from another burner, timed perfectly after I wiped Alex's cloud account and replaced his backup contacts with junk numbers. He would never respond to her again. Not because he didn't want to, but because I made sure he couldn't. I erased every trail between them, like he'd never existed in her life at all, and she was unraveling from the loss. She finally came to me, tears streaking her face, fingers clenched in her sleeves like a girl begging not to be sent away. "I don't know what's happening to me," she whispered. "I feel like I'm losing everything." I didn't flinch. Instead, I wrapped her in my arms and said, "You still have me." And that was the sweetest lie I ever told. Emily had no idea just how alone she was about to become. After Alex disappeared from her life, I watched her reach for the next line of defense: family. Her mother, her younger sister, her college friend Tara, the women she always turned to when things didn't feel right. The one she texted during petty arguments, or when I was being distant, as she once put it. Those were the voices that told her to hold on, to push through, to justify the lies she told herself. They had to go. I started with her sister, Lena. Lena was the kind of woman who carried opinions like weapons, always the first to jump to Emily's defense, even before she heard the whole story. She was single, freshly divorced, and thought of herself as the feminist truth-teller in the family. And Emily, God bless her, worshipped her advice. So I gave Lena a reason to worry. I arranged a few well-timed accidents. A missed text that I accidentally forwarded to Emily's group chat that said, "She hasn't been herself lately. I'm honestly worried about how unstable she's getting." I followed it with a phone call to Lena. Sincere, calm, calculated. She's just, I don't know, forgetting things, crying out of nowhere. She accused me of hiding her keys the other day. It was like she was someone else. Lena's voice shifted immediately. Cautious, concerned. "Do you think she needs to see someone?" I've mentioned it, but she gets defensive. And if I press, she shuts down completely. Lena promised to check in with her. I encouraged it. Maybe if she hears it from someone else, maybe she'll actually listen. From that moment on, every time Emily vented to her sister about feeling off or forgetting things, Lena responded with guarded tones, subtle suggestions. "Are you sure it happened that way, Em? You might just be overreacting, sweetie. Have you considered talking to someone professionally?" Emily would come to me after those conversations confused and deflated. "She thinks I'm imagining things," she said one night, her voice barely audible. "Like I'm making it all up." I pulled her in my arms. "She doesn't understand what you're going through." But I do. She gripped me tighter. Her mother was next. Sweet, gentle Margaret. The kind of woman who believed in potluck dinners and passive-aggressive compliments. She was always suspicious of me in the early years. Thought I was too reserved, too observant. So I used that. A casual phone call. "Hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. Emily's going through something. I don't want to scare you, but I think she's lying about some things." Her voice sharpened. "Lying? About what?" "I don't know. She told me you were coming to visit last week, but then said you canceled. Said you were angry with her. But when I talked to Lena, She said you hadn't even spoken. I don't know what to believe anymore. It was a lie, a simple one, but it stuck. Margaret didn't confront her, not directly. That wasn't her style. Instead, she pulled away politely, subtly. Calls became shorter, less frequent. Her usual Sunday FaceTimes stopped without explanation. Emily noticed. Did I do something to offend her? She asked me one afternoon, staring at her phone screen like it had betrayed her. She's barely said anything all week. Maybe she's just giving you space, I said. I watched her eyes dim, her body shrink into the couch like she was trying to disappear into the cushions. And for the first time in weeks, I saw a flicker of real fear behind her quiet confusion. She was being abandoned piece by piece, by people who loved her, and she didn't understand why. Tara, her best friend since undergrad, was the last to go. Tara was fire, quick-witted, bold, and famously no bullshit. She once threatened to key my car during a Halloween party because I teased Emily in front of their friends. She didn't trust me, never had, so I didn't attack her directly. I used Emily instead. I started replying to Tara's texts late at night from Emily's phone, small messages, crafted with just enough venom to sound real. You always make everything about you. Then, days later, I don't need your advice, Tara. I need you to stop judging me. She'd never believe I sent them. But Tara's pride was bigger than her forgiveness. When Emily finally reached out to patch things up, Tara responded with 3 words, "Take care." Just like that, gone. I watched her stare at that message for nearly 5 full minutes. She didn't speak, didn't cry, just slowly locked her phone and set it on the coffee table like it was something that had stopped working. That night, I made her dinner. Comfort food. Her favorite. Lasagna, garlic bread, a glass of red. She barely touched it. Her appetite had been waning for weeks. She sat in silence, twisting her napkin into tight, fraying knots. The overhead light cast soft shadows across her face. She looked older, not in years, but in weight, like she was dragging something no one else could see. "You're the only one I feel I can trust anymore," she said finally. I reached across the table and took her hand. "You always can." She looked at me, her eyes glassy and wet. "Promise." I leaned forward, brushed my thumb along her knuckles, and whispered, "I promise." She believed me, because everyone else was gone. And now, when I looked at her across the room, I didn't see a woman anymore. I saw a wreck, a shell wrapped in silence. And it was almost time to finish what I'd started. Revenge is sweetest when it's slow. But public revenge? That's where the flavor turns unforgettable. Emily had no idea what I was planning. Not even the faintest suspicion. I'd spent weeks planting false hope in her heart like seeds in poisoned soil. I'd nurtured her trust, fed her belief in our healing, even while stripping her world bare. Now, it was time to salt the earth. The idea for the event came to me one night as she dozed on the couch beside me, curled up like a child seeking warmth. A reconciliation dinner, a celebration of love, I called it. I sold it to her as a new beginning. "We've been through a lot," I said, brushing her hair behind her ear, "and I think it's time to show the people we care about that we're still here, still strong." Her eyes welled with tears. She nodded. "I'd love that." She offered to help plan it. I declined. "You've done enough," I told her. "Let me take care of this." She took that as grace. I meant it as control. I spent 2 weeks putting the guest list together. Family, friends, her colleagues, Mine, our neighbors, her mother, her sister reluctantly, even Tara, who accepted the invitation out of guilt more than curiosity. I invited her boss. I invited Alex's ex-girlfriend, whom I tracked down on social media. And of course, I invited Alex himself. I needed him there. The venue was tasteful, not extravagant, just enough elegance to lend gravity to the moment. Candlelit tables, soft jazz humming through the speakers, waitstaff in black, a photographer Emily thought I hired to capture the night. Every detail meticulously set, every lie prepared for burial. Emily wore a soft blue dress that hugged her hips the way she knew I liked. Her hair was curled loosely, her smile shy but real. For the first time in a long time, she looked like the woman I married. She held my hand tightly as we entered the room together, both of us bathed in the warm light of soft chandeliers and polite applause. Our guests rose to greet us like we were royalty. Glasses clinked. Greetings were exchanged. Emily laughed, actually laughed, and I smiled through it all. Calm, measured, alive with quiet malice. Dinner was served. Speeches were made. I gave mine last. I stood at the front of the room, glass in hand, the entire room watching with warm, expectant smiles. Emily beamed up at me from her seat. I raised my glass. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began. It means more than you know. A few nods, a few murmurs of agreement. I continued. Emily and I have been through something difficult, something that most marriages don't survive. And yet, somehow we have. Emily tilted her head slightly. Her smile faltered. I turned toward her, lowering the glass. I want to thank you, Emily, for showing me just how strong I can be, for teaching me the true meaning of betrayal and the quiet power of truth. Now the smiles began to fall away. I turned back to the crowd. I've spent the past few months learning something that changed my life, learning how lies don't stay hidden forever, how trust, once broken, doesn't always have to be rebuilt. Sometimes it can be replaced. With clarity, with resolve. I gestured to the projector screen on the wall behind me, the one that had been showing candid photos of us throughout the evening. On cue, the photographer, actually a hired tech, switched to the prepared slides. Text messages, photos, screenshots, hotel receipts, time-stamped evidence. The first image was a text. Can't stop thinking about your hands on me last night. The next, a photo of Emily and Alex kissing in the Marlowe's lobby. Then more, each one worse than the last. The room fell completely silent. Emily gasped, actually gasped, then turned to me, pale, shaking. What are you doing? I didn't answer. I kept my eyes on the screen. More messages followed. I told him I had a meeting. He suspects nothing. It's you I dream about now. I turned to face the guests, letting the final slide hang in the air. A selfie of Alex shirtless, Emily behind him in a hotel mirror, wrapped in a towel. My wife, I said evenly, has been having an affair. For months. With a man she works with. She lied to her friends, to her family, and to me. But not anymore. The silence was a vacuum. Emily stood. Please, no, this isn't what it looks like. Oh, it's exactly what it looks like, I snapped, voice finally sharpening. She looked around wild-eyed, searching for someone to defend her. But no one moved. Her mother looked down into her lap. Lena stared, mouth slightly open. Tara had her hand over her mouth. I walked off stage slowly. Behind me, the screen went dark. I returned to the table, set my untouched wine down, and looked Emily in the eyes. You broke this. Her lips parted to respond, but nothing came out. No tears, just a stunned, hollow expression, like someone waking up underwater. Then the whispers began, the guests slowly murmuring, shuffling, gathering their things. Some stood and left. Some simply looked away. She tried to follow me out, reached for my arm. Please, please don't leave me like this. I turned to her with a stare that stripped the last of her pride. You already left me, I said. I walked away as the whispers turned to stares, as her world, what little of it she had left, caved in under the weight of truth she could no longer hide from. And the beautiful part? I never had to raise my voice. She destroyed herself. I just held the mirror. She found me 3 days after the event. I was staying in a hotel on the edge of the city, some quiet, business-style place with thick drapes and a forgettable minibar. I hadn't planned on seeing her again so soon. I thought she might hide, might retreat to her mother's or flee to the coast for a week to lick her wounds and spin the story into something gentler for herself. But no, she came to me. The knock was sharp, rapid, like anger had been holding her fist for her. I opened the door, and there she was, disheveled, pale, her mascara smeared faintly at the corners of her eyes like old bruises. She looked like a woman unraveling mid-sentence. You really did it, she said. No hello, no preamble. I stepped aside, wordlessly. She entered. The door shut behind her like a final chapter slamming closed. She didn't sit. She stood in the center of the room, arms wrapped around herself, her jaw tight, like she was physically chewing back rage. You humiliated me. I didn't argue. You destroyed my life. Still, I said nothing. She took a shaky breath. Why? After everything we've been through, why would you do it like that? In front of everyone? My family? My coworkers? I leaned back against the wall, arms folded. You mean the people you lied to? Slept around behind? Manipulated? That's not the same. No, I said, my voice flat, almost tired. You spent months spreading your legs for another man and coming home to me with his scent still on your skin. And I made a PowerPoint. Tell me again how I'm a monster here. She flinched. It landed. Her defenses cracked, just a little. That's not fair, she said, voice lower now, trembling with frustration. You don't understand what I was going through. I pushed off the wall and stepped closer. Oh, I understand exactly what you were going through, Emily. You were bored, restless. Maybe you missed being wanted. Maybe you felt like I was too distant, too ordinary. So you let someone else inside you and decided it was love. Don't dress it up. Don't pretend it was some crisis of the soul. Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't fall. She shook her head, visibly searching for something, anything that could reset this narrative. I didn't mean for it to happen like that. I laughed. Yeah, that's the problem with people like you. You want the fire without the ash. You want the thrill without the wreckage. She stepped toward me now, her voice breaking. You don't get it, do you? I hated myself every day. Every time I looked at you, I saw everything I was ruining, and I hated it. But I couldn't stop. And then you. What? I interrupted. You thought I didn't know? She froze. And in that frozen moment, I saw it. The horrifying realization that this entire time, the late-night breakdowns, the gaslighting, the reconciliation, the whispered promises of forgiveness, I had been fully awake. I stepped even closer, inches from her now. You think it all started with that dinner? I said, you think that was the betrayal? Emily, that was the finale. You just weren't paying attention to the act before it. Her lip trembled. You were pretending to love me. All that time. No, I said softly. I did love you. For years. Until you threw it away like a dress that didn't fit anymore. She sank into the edge of the bed, finally unable to hold herself up under the weight of what she'd done, or what I'd done in return. I lost everything, she whispered. I nodded. That's the idea. Her voice cracked. Even Alex, he won't even talk to me. They fired him. He lost his apartment. I didn't think. That's the problem, I said. You never thought. Silence. A long, stretching silence that ached in the corners of the room. Then, finally, she asked the one question I knew was coming. Do you feel better? I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not the woman I'd married, but the hollow aftermath of someone who had buried herself under bad decisions and believed no one would ever come looking. No, I said. Not really. She looked away, her hands trembling in her lap. I don't even know who I am anymore, she muttered. I crouched in front of her, meeting her eyes. You're exactly who you've always been. You just finally got to see the mirror. She sobbed then, silent, sharp, ugly sobs. She didn't apologize. Not directly. Maybe she knew better by now. There was nothing she could say that would sew the pieces back together. And I wouldn't have let her try. I stood slowly, walked to the door, and opened it. You should go. She rose without argument, stumbled past me like a ghost on legs, still hugging herself as if she could fold into her own grief and vanish. At the doorway, she paused. Do you hate me? I didn't answer right away. I wish I could, I finally said. And then I closed the door, not in anger, not in revenge, but in completion. I didn't hear from Emily again after that night at the hotel. Not a call, not a text, not even an email. At first, it felt like victory, like the closing note in a carefully orchestrated symphony of justice. The silence was supposed to be the reward, the quiet aftermath of a plan executed with perfect precision. But silence, it turns out, doesn't feel like peace. It feels like absence. She vanished from our home within a week. I didn't even know she was coming to collect her things. One afternoon, I came back from coffee run and found the place half empty. Her closet was bare, bathroom shelves wiped clean, the framed photo from our wedding gone. All that remained was her scent lingering on the sheets and a single red scarf draped across the back of the living room chair. I didn't touch it. I still haven't. Word trickled in slowly, like rumors bleeding through a town after a storm. Her family had pulled away. Her mother stopped asking about her altogether. Lena texted me once, awkwardly. I didn't know how bad it had gotten. I am sorry. Tara didn't respond to Emily's apology. She never would. Her job? Gone. Apparently, she took a leave of absence that quietly became permanent. I'm not sure she was fired or if she resigned out of shame. Either way, the faculty site removed her profile within a month. As for Alex, he left town. His social media went dark. One of his ex-girlfriends posted a vague status about people ruining lives and then disappearing like cowards, but she never mentioned him by name. I heard he relocated to another state, maybe changed industries entirely. His career was ash now, scattered across a scandal I had set ablaze. I should have felt something more satisfying. Triumph, maybe. Instead, I felt empty. I kept telling myself, she deserved it. And she did. That wasn't the part one questioned. But somewhere along the way, in meticulously destroying her life, I'd forgotten how to rebuild my own. I'd gotten so used to living in reaction to her betrayal that I no longer remembered who I was before it. My mornings were quiet now. My evenings long and uneventful. No arguments. No tensión. No false smiles stretched across the dinner table. But also no laughter. No movement upstairs. No warmth waiting in the kitchen. Just space. I began working later. Volunteered for business trips. Took up running again, just to keep my mind from replaying every moment I couldn't forget. The sounds, the images, the things I'd read in her messages that still made my stomach twist. I passed her gym once, by accident. She was standing outside, phone in hand, waiting for an Uber maybe. She looked thinner, tired. Her hair was pulled back into a simple bun, and she wore sunglasses even though it was cloudy. She didn't see me. I didn't call out. I just kept walking. What was there to say? I thought about stopping, about asking her how she was holding up, about telling her I didn't hate her, that maybe, just maybe, I was starting to understand how far gone we both had been before any of this began. But I didn't. Because forgiveness isn't a conversation. It's a scar. It just sits there, quietly reminding you that pain once lived here. One night, about 2 months after the fallout, I found myself looking through our old photo albums. I don't even know why I kept them. Maybe because some part of me needed to remember that we had been real once. That the happiness wasn't always fake. That we were at the beach, wind in her hair, her smile half buried behind sunglasses. Us in the cabin up north. Her in the kitchen, covered in flour, laughing as I tried to bake her a birthday cake. That was before everything. Before Alex. Before the quiet hatred I carried like a second skin. I ran my finger along the edge of one photo. Our wedding day. She looked at me like I was her entire world. And I believed her. What a dangerous thing to believe. I closed the album and slid it back under the bed. It was around then that I realized revenge doesn't give you back what you lost. It just ensures that they lose it too. We were both shells now. Me, living a house that no longer felt like home. Her, drifting through a life she barely recognized. No friends. No partner. No family willing to listen. She hadn't just lost me. She'd lost herself. But so had I. And the truth was, neither of us would ever get those people back. We'd buried them beneath the lies, the secrets, and the carefully orchestrated vengeance. And all that was left was ruin. Not fire. Not blood. Just quiet, irreversible damage. 6 months later, I live in a city where no one knows my name. The apartment is small. Sparse. A one-bedroom with plain white walls, 2 windows, and a balcony that overlooks a grocery store parking lot. There's no art, no family photos, just the hum of the fridge, the creak of floorboards when I pace at night, and the soft hiss of traffic in the distance. I used to imagine this moment. I used to think that once everything was done, once Emily was ruined, once Alex had vanished, once everyone had seen the truth, I'd feel some surge of vindication. I thought I'd sleep easier, breathe deeper, walk lighter. But this isn't relief. This is aftermath. I wake up some mornings still expecting her weight next to mine. I roll over instinctively, hand reaching for the warmth of a body that isn't there, hasn't been there in months. Old muscle memory, like a phantom limb of love. Funny, isn't it? You can burn something to the ground, but the outline of it still lives in you. Emily never tried to reach out again. Not once. I found out through a mutual friend that she moved in with an aunt a few towns over. Apparently, she's taking care of an elderly relative, spending her days at home, mostly alone. She doesn't teach anymore. I don't know if she'll ever go back. She lives in the shadow of what we were. I live in the ruins of who I became. We don't speak. I told myself I'd write about it. Just once. Not to justify anything, but to understand it. To lay it all out like bones in the sun and see what remained. Not the plan, not the execution, but the man beneath it. And the truth is, I'm tired. Not of regret, not of anger, just of carrying the weight of something I thought would save me, but only made me hollow. People think revenge is a sharp blade. Something hot, precise. But it's not. It's a slow poison. You drink it in small doses, thinking you're building immunity. All the while, it's changing you, dulling you, twisting you into something you never meant to become. I don't miss her, but I miss who I was before her betrayal. Before I turned into someone who smiled through lies, who calculated another person's ruin like a math problem. I miss being decent. The last time I saw her was by accident. I'd gone back to town to handle some paperwork for the sale of our old house. She was walking out of pharmacy, holding a brown paper bag and staring down at her phone. She didn't see me, or maybe she did, and chose to keep walking. She looked smaller, not physically, but in spirit. She walked like someone who had nothing left to prove, nothing left to hold on to. I didn't follow her. I just watched her go, and for a moment, I felt sorry, not because I regretted what I did, but because I finally understood that nothing we destroy ever stays buried. It lives in both of us, in the silence, in the spaces between new moments, in the echo of laughter that doesn't quite ring the same anymore. I won. That much is true. I ruined her life, stripped her down to a version of herself she couldn't recognize. Took her family, her job, her reputation, her lover. Made her watch as the world turned its back on her. But the victory feels like ash. There's no ceremony, no weight lifted, just an empty apartment and a man who doesn't trust his own reflection anymore. If you ask me whether I'd do it again, I don't know what I'd say. Maybe, maybe not. All I know is when you stare long enough at someone's betrayal, something inside you changes. Something goes cold. And once it does, you stop measuring right and wrong in absolutes. You just count what's left when it's over. So here I am, a man who got everything he wanted and lost the only part of himself that could have been happy about it. Revenge doesn't heal you. It just makes sure you're not alone in the wreckage. And maybe, just maybe, that's the cruelest part of all.